My impression is that it's a very professional series. I think it's a very competitive series, and you've got some very, very talented drivers here who certainly know the tracks and they know the formula, so it's not easy to beat the talent you have in New Zealand on their own track. So but the standard is very high, and it's very, very similar to the kind of single-seater categories that you need to race in back home in Europe in order to progress onto the higher levels.
I think the calendar this year is really what's helped the whole international element, and bringing the international drivers really raises the standard for the locals, and they've responded really, really well. The championships now have testing restrictions in Europe, and I think this offers them a very intense sort of 4 or 5 week period where the guys can race and qualify and do race starts, and the pressure of qualifying. So I think it's a really important thing. I mean, testing at a single circuit in Europe for a number of days doesn't give you the same challenges as actually going through race meetings and dealing with a bit of pressure like the qualifying session we've just had for the Grand Prix is all good training.
Oh, I think the cars are exceptionally good. You could take any of the cars from this grid and any of the teams and place them amongst the very best top teams in Europe, be it World Series, Formula 3 or Formula Renault, and they would be competitive at any of those levels. We have several drivers that have competed in this series before. This year we have Will Buller, who's competing in Formula 3. We have Will Stevens, who's been here before, who's doing the Euro Cup Renault Championship. We also had Sten Pentus, who was here last season and went on to finish 4th in the World Series Championship.
Look, it's very, very cost effective because it's very well managed by Toyota. It's quite restricted in the ability to test. So the challenges are the same for all the drivers, I think, and even though our dollar in this part of the world has strengthened against the euro, it's still very, very good value for money.
Increasingly, we're attracting European engineers. That's important for Toyota.
Yeah, and also I think for carrying, the Europeans are coming over will realise that once you start to work with the engineer, and it's a real team aspect, understanding each other, and they can start that process here. So they can carry that momentum into the testing schedule and then ultimately the racing and get a head start. For me, number one is the competitive nature of it. It's incredibly even in both the engine supply and the way the tyre rules and vehicles are set up. It really comes down to the driver and the team working together, and we've won a lot of races with a lot of different drivers, and it's a competitive series. You underperform, you lose 4 places. It's as simple as that.
It's not just pounding around a test track and not ideal conditions. We're out here racing, the guys are going through, they're getting testing, they're getting qualifying, they're getting wheel-to-wheel racing, and you're not going to get that in Europe at this time of the year.
They're very, very similar to what they'll drive in Europe. The Tata chassis is well known over there and used in many championships, so it's a very good car to drive. The engine's very strong, very reliable, so altogether I just think there's no better opportunity for drivers to get a bit of extra experience.
Well, I think this championship is pretty a good series to train young driver. It's a good chance for a lot of young people to learn to drive, improve their driving from the basic to more technical things, so it's definitely a good championship. Quite a lot of drivers before Formula Renault 2000 or Formula 3 can come here to train, and it's really good. I think it's more or less the same level of the training series in Europe, and also is in a free period for Europe, so definitely is a good chance for the European driver and Asian driver to come and train.
Were you surprised at how competitive the New Zealand and Australian drivers are?
Yeah, I was quite surprised, honestly. Yeah, there are lots of competitive drivers here. It's always tough, very close, and Well, yeah, it's very competitive. It's very good to learn here, I would say.
Whereas with the international guys here, it forces you to be at the top of your game the whole time. You can't let your guard down. So, you know, and that's why it forces you to be on top of your game. Every time you sit in the car, you need to be improving.
We can't thank Toyota for everything, enough for everything that they've done this year. The drivers that they got across was pretty cool. It set a great benchmark for us, and then also for us to be able to see how they go in Europe, because just by the testing times already, and they've only just started testing, it's cool to have the benchmark out here and put ourselves against them.
I had a gap in racing, and last year I competed in GP3, which didn't go quite well, I think because of this gap and because the series is really competitive. So hopefully Toyota Racing Series is a good training ground to GP3 next year.
It's extremely tough, to be fair. You know, Mitch Evans, you know, he's making a lot of noise over in Europe with his talent, and you know, it's certainly justified. He's an incredible driver, and we got, you know, some Red Bull drivers down here, some Germans. Mario drove a great race. You know, the field's incredible, and you know, it really brings on every single driver.
This is just the Toyota Racing Series, a fantastic stepping stone, I guess, for me, and a great way to just learn some more and develop a little bit more before I break into British Formula 3 this year.
You know, if it wasn't for TRS, I probably wouldn't have this opportunity as well, because I wouldn't have any wings and slicks experience. I'd have to go in the deep end, you know, over to Europe or whatever to try and make a name for myself. But now since I've got the TRS, we can, you know, get some race mileage in the wings and slicks categories, you know, without exposing yourself too much. So you can go over there and try and impress without, you know, coming out of nowhere, basically. So. I think that's one of the best things about TRS, and you know, if you do get the opportunity to go to Europe, it's really going to help you.